Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, man. So nice to be here with you, man.
I'm excited to have you, man. I've known you for 30, maybe over 30 years. And there's
Let's
a lot.
not age ourselves.
Let's not age ourselves because we are going to talk about longevity.
Yeah.
But you and I were talking earlier. This country doesn't have healthcare. It has sick care.
Totally. It's all about disease management and not about really root cause medicine and eradicating the source of the problem.
It's crazy, man, because I don't know anyone, rich guy, poor guy, you're on Medicare, Medicaid, you have an awesome healthcare plan that's happy with their plan or the outcomes or the process of it. And it seems to me, definitely with what you're doing, mass disruption, right? Multi-trillion-dollar industry. Tell me what you guys are doing.
Well, I think, first of all, it's important that I lay the premise that I'm not a medical professional. I only play one on podcasts and TV. But I think that's an important point, and I'll tell you why. Because you're seeing really a revolution on the medical front, and it's being led by people such as myself that are not healthcare professionals, that are just tired of the system and of not taking what the system gives you as a solution. And that's kind of how I founded my initial company, Gentera. That's how I've continued to push into the other companies that I have now on the stem cell front. And it's really a revolution. And I think that we're hoping to continue to educate the new wave of healthcare professionals to see that the system is totally broken and we have to continue to push to change. Look, and it's not being against big pharma. Like, there's a place for all of this, but the system is broken as we know it, and I'm really hoping to make a change to fix it.
Yeah, look, I think you guys are off to a really great start. It's about education right now, right?
Correct.
So people don't, stem cell, what is it? What do I do? Whatnot, whether it's PRP or all stuff. I know for me, speaking personally, it's had a major impact on my life, on my family's life. Looking back, how I first sort of rounds of this stuff, my dad tore his rotator cuff, was going to go into surgery. I said, Dad, you're 77 years old. You shouldn't be getting surgeries at this point. Just kind of try to control it. Why don't you go and look into stem cells and PRP and delay the surgery? Do it. And in 6 or 7 weeks, if it doesn't work, you just go get the surgery. I swear to God, he went, he got PRP treatment. And in 6 or 7 weeks, not only was he healthy, he was put back playing golf.
That's
my
amazing.
Mother for her knee, my mother-in-law for her back.
And if he would have had the surgery, he may not have gotten back.
He may not have gotten back,
and nowhere near in that time.
He could have gotten an infection,
right?
And then you got to do all the physical therapy and all this stuff. And I'm just like, man, like this seems to me. By the way, and the insurance company with the copay and stuff, like it ended up being cheaper to do the PRP, and it's just an education of this stuff. And I had gone down the rabbit hole because I'm not as trusting of doctors and stuff. And I think that's where you guys are at right now. That's why I love having you guys on podcasts, because it's to educate the public. Like there are other alternatives to surgery and to, being loaded up on pills the rest of your life, right?
And that's a great point. And look, I got into this business as a need, as a patient. So about 12 years ago, our chief science officer, who's my mentor and really a pioneer in the stem cell space, he goes, hey, we're doing a study with a bunch of MMA fighters down in Mexico to do a stem cell treatment. I had no idea what a stem cell was. Right. I was like, but sounds cool. MMA fighters, Mexico.
I'm in. It's cool.
Yeah. There's a movie like this.
Right.
So then I ended up flying down. It was in Guadalajara, Mexico. And I remember the year 2012, funny enough, because that's the year that Don Julio 70, the tequila, came out. And I remember celebrating with that. So that's the year that I had that done. And I remember coming out of that procedure and the stem cell, it was from myself. It's called an autologous procedure. They took it out of my bone marrow. They spun it. They processed it. Then they reinfused it into me. I came out of that, Danny, feeling energetic.
Really?
Like I was able to do a 4-foot box jump. I don't think I was able to do one before then. Maybe not even since then. But we were really testing two things. We were testing recovery on the athletes. And secondly, we were testing blood doping because, in a lot of these high level athletic sports, or you have the anti-doping agency. So we wanted to see if there was an issue. Fortunately, neither one came back. It didn't come back positive for any of the blood doping, and we did see the recovery improve. So that immediately piqued my knowledge and saying, man, if this is from me and it did this, what else could this do?
Right.
And then about 18 months later, I remember I had torn my ACL in college, and I said, does this stuff work on joints? And like, absolutely. So I injected my knee 18 months later. 4 months after that, I'm playing basketball again, full court. Still to this day, at Epiphany,
No way.
I'm still playing, once a week, with guys significantly younger than me, and I think that's a testament to, the autologous or the stem cell process, how the body gives you the ability to regenerate and heal itself. So that's it. That really set me on my way to understand how could I bring this message to others. I know I'm not the only one.
Sure.
Look, you faced the same issues. And then that's how I kind of founded the company. And initially it was just on the stem cell front, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was regenerative. But I quickly saw that what I was going after was regenerative, and beyond that, precision medicine or
Mm-hmm.
personalized, where your necessity, mine, your father's, it's all different. So really the practitioner's job is to get to the root cause, understand two things: what the patient's deficiencies are and what their goals are to accomplish, right? In this case, your dad was, yes, he had a mechanical issue, but he also had a quality of life issue.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he thought about it and put it off, and I don't want to get to surgery. And look, I don't blame the surgeons. The surgeons are trained. They go to school for a big part of their early part of their career to do precisely that.
Yeah.
I can't get upset at them,
Right.
but I can educate them. In fact, my partner today is an orthopedic surgeon because he's been open to see that this is a very necessary and complementary part to the stuff we offer in Western medicine.
Tell me what stem cell therapy is. What happens to your body? What do you do? To walk me through it if I'm a 10-year-old kid.
Perfect. And that's a great question. And there's been a lot of noise regarding stem cells because it got so popular, and then everyone starts throwing the term around loosely. Stem cells are really undifferentiated cells that are in our body that are, when we infuse them or when we inject them in, they're kind of looking for where the troubled areas are, and then they will they will become that cell, communicate with that cell to repair it, right? So let's say in your dad's case or in my case, right, it went into the knee, so the healthy cell communicated with a damaged cell and then helped to regenerate it. So they communicate and they talk via a mechanism called exosomes. So exosomes is another product that we sell. In fact, that's another company that I started. It's a biocosmetics company primarily on exosomes to help using exosomes for aesthetics purposes.
Okay.
Right. So because we felt that was up and coming, and now that's something else that's now becoming mainstream. So I love the fact that the vision that we had years ago, it's moving. It's now a whole mainstream movement in that front. So, but to continue on the stem cell front, so once the cells are in there and they start the regenerative process and it heals, you could actually see that if we took an MRI of your dad pre and post, you'll see that whatever damage was there has been improved. I mean, also we have to set the right expectation, right? If you tell me now, hey Brian, I have a full tear in my ACL, stem cells are not going to come in to fix that completely.
Right.
So there's still the surgical need there. So again, I don't want the orthos to go out there and say, oh my God, these guys are trying to put us out of a job. On the contrary, I think that these cellular therapies are there to complement and even potentially improve not only the outcome, but the recovery times.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not a miracle that you get the treatment, and you have to do physical therapy and you have to take care of yourself and keep your weight
like anything
under
else,
check.
right?
Like anything else. Yeah. Like the personalized medicine. I mean, one of the things that's always blown my mind is you go to your primary and they don't have a dietitian on. And I'm like, wait a minute, like probably the most important thing is like, what are you putting into your body? What are you eating?
100%.
How, and it's so simple, not expensive. And no, you go in and they want to, pump you a drug, they check your blood, and then you're just kind of gone. I'm like, well, am I healthy? But how do I maximize? Like, how do I get even better? Like, what's the best form of, 48-year-old Dan? And how do I feel more like 35-year-old Dan? Right. And they don't do that. It's just kind of like flipping burgers. Like, I just feel like that.
And that's two great points you touched on. First of all, ask your primary care next time you see them, hey, how much time did you spend talking about immune and gut health?
Oh, zero.
And zero.
Yeah, zero.
How do you, if we know that 70 to 80% of our immune system is in our gut, how do you not cover that in medical school?
Blows my mind.
And again, and that's just how broken the system is. I mean, because so much of these issues are rooted in immune and gut health, and it triggers really its inflammation. Right. So, and that chronic inflammation leads to degeneration. Right. So that's what we're really trying to mitigate. And on the personalized and nutrition side, yes, you really are what you eat. In fact, Our stem cells, when we get them to secrete our exosomes that we use, we feed them a keto diet to purposely get them to secrete what we want them to secrete. So even the cells
Yeah.
have to be fed a particular diet to get them to do what we want them to do. So if that doesn't tell you what, how important that is,
Yeah.
I don't know how else to simplify it.
Walk me through stem cells here in the US versus offshore. There are things that you cannot do here in the US that you can do offshore. What's the benefits? What's the differences?
Well, the FDA has basically labeled 3 primary criteria for what can and can't be done. And one is it has to be an autologous, which means the cells have to come from you,
Yeah.
right? Versus allogenic, which is an off-the-shelf type product, which I'll go into in a minute. Then secondly, it has to be homologous use, which means that whatever the cells were doing in your body, they have to continue to do when they're put back in.
Yeah.
And the third thing is minimal manipulation, which means the cells have to be minimally manipulated before they're put back in. If any of those 3 are violated, then it's considered a drug and you have to go through the full FDA route. You can't do. That's why, PRP is fine. It's just a blood product. You're seeing people do stem cells from either bone marrow, which was my first treatment that I mentioned that I had done in Mexico, or from a small lipo procedure or a lipoaspirate to extract the fat cells from that and isolate it and then inject it. So those are kind of where the gray areas of what allows the stem cells to be done. But if they're not from yourself or they're outside of the minimal manipulation, and you also can go IV, and that's the big thing. We're seeing tons of studies. In fact, in our other company that we're doing, that we have the stem cell manufacturing, we're in 4 clinical trials with the FDA, right? So one at the University of Florida for an autoimmune condition, which we're already on finishing a phase 2. And then we have another one for heart condition. We have one down here at Baptist Hospital, which originally started for COVID. And then now we're converting it to long haulers or long COVID, because we really are seeing people that either have, I'll just leave it as post-COVID.
Post-COVID.
All right. And then, but again, they're having inflammation issues, having heart issues. And our stem cells are so anti-inflammatory in nature that when we saw that the patients we treated during, the heart of the pandemic, and we were getting the Hail Marys, the guys that were on the intubators for 3 weeks, all the comorbidities you could think of, and they were walking out of the hospital. Why is that? And it's because, yes, COVID came in as a virus, but ultimately what did the damage is what it became. It became a vascular and inflammatory disease. So how do you fix that before the damage continues to proliferate? It is mitigate inflammation. We have a massive anti-inflammatory benefit with these stem cells. That's why they work.
Why don't insurance companies cover this stuff?
Well, first off, because we're seeing them, improve, cure. In fact, the clinical study we have at UF, 8 out of the 10 patients we treated got off of or significantly reduced the use of their corticosteroid. And we know steroids are being thrown at everything.
Right.
And we were able to bring them down or off of that. In fact, the patient that is helping fund the study, she's an angel, she's, fund the study, she's in full remission. Like, we've changed that lady's life to the point where, hey, she was one of Harvard's biggest benefactors. She saw what this did for her. And there's a passion play there, which is a really good story. And as we start to get more of these passion plays and everyone has their own story, this is what's going to continue to drive and push the stem. Look, stem cells in the next 3 years will be approved in some capacity for usage. Yeah. Which then will open it up to some off. It's not something that the big pharma monetary wants to hear, but by then they would have figured out how to monetize it themselves.
Yeah, they'll get into the business.
Right, like they did with peptides, right? We're now with the weight loss drugs. I mean, it's 2 of the biggest money makers on the market right now. Right. After we got over the vaccines, are the
they've moved on.
They've moved on, right? Bigger fish to fry right now. And we know as we continue to put out all this processed food and all these toxins and everyone getting hey, we got a lot of people that are overweight. Yeah. In fact, I was reading a study yesterday, Danny, that 50% of cancer could be avoided with lifestyle changes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, right? I bet you that number's higher.
That's huge. So really what that translates to is what's called epigenetics, right? And genetics are the cards we're dealt, right? The genes that we bring from our family, but epigenetics are what turns on and off certain markers based on lifestyle changes. So if you're a chronic smoker, clearly you're going to be pushed in one direction where you otherwise may not have. And now we're also seeing that the big ones are diet and sedentary lifestyles.
Yeah.
Usually they go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But that, sitting is the new cancer. I mean, the new smoking. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
And so we have to continue to. We are the product.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why if you leave when you're outside the U.S., you see that they're constantly alluding to us as like, hey, we're the fat country.
Yeah.
And put this out. So that's why this market has exploded, because there's so many people that are overweight, and then all these other conditions start to manifest.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the spike in autoimmune diseases.
It's
is nuts.
insane.
Dude, okay, like I was thinking the other day, you and I went to school together with a lot of kids. Did you know anybody with a peanut allergy? No. And now it's like every one of my friends' kids got one. And I'm like, what is going on? It's something that they're putting in the systems, in the drugs, whatever. And that's why I go back to it's sick care. They got to take a step back. I think what you guys are doing is like just sort of the personalized medicine is like, all right, let's walk through your lifestyle. Let's walk through what you're putting into your body, your activities, like all these things. And the way that we deliver care today definitely doesn't do that. The way that we compensate, that the insurers pay out, Medicare, Medicaid, on and on, is also ass backwards. It is, to me, a multi-trillion-dollar business that is ripe to be massively disrupted and needs to be.
Right. I mean, look, you come out of school, 8 years. You have loans. You're in debt.
Yeah. You got to get going.
You got to get going, and then you see what these payouts are, less and less every day. So you're forced to see 1 million patients.
Right.
That's from the doctor side. Then the patient, hey, yes, I have insurance. This should be covered. I'm gonna go see this, the specialist I have to get a referral. I have to sit and wait months.
It's a disaster
for any sort of specialty.
Yeah.
Then you go in, you're herded like cats. You're sitting in a room with a ton of people. Good luck. When you get in?
Yeah.
My appointment is for 12:30. Yeah. Well, his for sure is 10. He's still waiting there. So that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that we really have to kind of change that and try to keep pushing on the personalized front. But that's only going to happen when there's more supply of doctors doing concierge and personalized medicine. Because look, if you take a look at what you're paying in copays, what you're paying in deductibles, and again, not that insurance is not necessary. We were talking about it earlier. If you have, if you're going to have a kid, if you're having an emergency, a car accident, if you have a life-altering condition, yes, insurance is still necessary. But if you look what you're coming out of pocket for the real day-to-day, other than emergency or force majeure events, you're better off paying for something that you're going to get good service on 100%. And assure that you're going to get a good outcome.
Yeah, no, 100%. Because I bet you if I look back in, let's say, the last 25 years, what I have paid in insurance, in deductibles and stuff, versus just like keeping them. The insurance is great if you have a catastrophic situation, right. Bad car accident and hundreds of thousands of dollars and stuff. But like for some of this other stuff, once I start looking at the copays and the deductibles that I make, I'm like, what the hell do I even have insurance for?
What did I get?
What did I get, really? Just this safety blanket of if there's something really bad happens to me. Yeah. It's crazy. Now, take me a step back on the business side. How did you get involved with Gary Brecka? And he's exploded. I mean, for those of you who don't know it, he's all over social media. He's really the guy who, Dana White credits him with saving his life, right? Changed his lifestyle. And Dana went from a guy who,
very unhealthy,
couldn't sleep.
Best, by the way, best doctors he had.
Best doctors, 100 medicine. Yeah. Every medicine you can think of. He went the old traditional route. He went to the personalized medicine with Gary, and he changed his life within a couple of weeks. I mean, it was pretty great story. How did you get connected with him?
And that's a good point, because when you see guys like Dana and so many of the other people that we've treated, that best money doctors, or best right, best doctors money could buy. But they're still on tons of medicines. I mean, super unhealthy. Again, it's not the money; it's the system, and it's the knowledge. So you have to, you have to push outside of that. And then, Gary, I met Gary probably about right as COVID was starting. Funny enough, Gary had his medical practice. I had mine, and we had gotten into the COVID testing kit.
Yeah.
So that's how we initially met. And then he knew that we had the stem cell product. And he had some really good contacts with, Grant Cardone and a few other people. And they started going down to our clinics in Mexico, to be treated with stem cells and natural killer cells, which I'll get into in a minute as well. And started to see, improvements with all the other stuff that they were doing. So then we became a trusted partner as kind of like cell therapy experts
Yeah.
that complemented the other things that he
Got
was doing. And I mean, we were just last week in the Hamptons at a fireside chat, there, and we were talking precisely about this. And one of the points we made is like, look, neither one of us are doctors,
Right.
but we're really, and obviously him on a significantly greater platform is pushing out a message, and don't get so hung up on every little detail of the science he's saying. Yeah, he's not an expert, he's not a PhD,
Right.
He's not going to be right 100% of the time,
Right.
but the enthusiasm, the motivation, the awareness that he is putting out there for people that now want to take their health proactively
Yes.
is a game changer.
Is a total game changer.
And really being a catalyst of a fire starter to what we're doing.
Yeah, that's why, people can laugh all they want about, getting bro science on IG or whatever. The reality is, if you listen to it, like the bulk of it is 100% accurate. Whether you believe in, let's say, grounding, which is like, I don't know if it's true, but everything else he says is, eating organic foods, eating, 80% of your diet from whole foods, regular exercise, making sure that you're sleeping. Like, this is stuff that A, doesn't cost you a whole lot, and B, it works. Like, there is lots and lots of studies that say, hey, and by the way, it's also just how you feel. Like, once I started to really change a lot of my habits, everything got better. My energy's up, my sleep is better. I can work out harder, all that kind of stuff. It's 100% accurate, man. It's crazy.
And look, I mean, and the things he talks about it, a lot of stuff is basic, and the most important thing you have to apply to medicine is logic and common sense, which is missing. We saw it during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And ultimately we saw that there was a big part of that missing.
Yeah.
So once we, you add that, of course, you have to understand basic anatomy and chemistry and how all that works. But, he's talking about what? Hydration, electromagnetism, grounding, obviously deflecting so much of these toxins that are coming into you, like we said, from the food, the water, the air. You have microplastics, the glyphosate, in the fertilizers, and I mean, just from everywhere. And that's another. There's over 200 autoimmune conditions.
It's crazy.
Like you said earlier, I mean, you just mentioned peanut allergy, but so many other autoimmune conditions, people just feeling lousy, and you start to accept the lower level as, hey, I'm okay.
Right.
But you don't know what's on the other side of that until, and so many people I've gotten that they comment like, hey, thank you, I haven't felt this good. I feel 10 years younger now.
It's funny because if you go to Europe, let's say you go to Europe for like a week or whatever, it is true. When you eat there, and in Europe, you're eating, pastas and whatever, and then you eat the pasta here, it is different. Like here, I feel...
I'm convinced of that.
100%. Like if I eat pizza in Italy or I eat pizza here, I love pizza. I eat it, but like, dude, it's like, it hits me like a bomb. Yeah. In Italy, I'm kind of fine.
Yeah.
And that is 100% like, again, not bro science. I do feel better. It's what we're putting all the toxins.
And if you notice, like, the blue zones that's become popular, there's a couple that are in Europe, in different parts of Europe. And the one thing that's consistent, I mean, look, there's one in Japan, there's one in, in Scandinavia, one in off the coast of Italy. The one thing that's consistent is, look, they all have different diets.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that's consistent is, yes, they all eat healthy.
Yeah, right.
Right. Secondly, they all have a lot of exercise.
Yes.
Non-sedentary.
Right.
There also is a big sense of community.
Correct.
And if you start to see those pillars, they start to make sense, and they're pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Here, what are we seeing that we do a lot here? We get in our car for everything.
Everything.
There's no walking. I mean, we've been force fed all this. I mean, we grew up on it. Thank God.
Yeah.
And who knows if we wouldn't have taken a hardcore stance on our health, you're in fit, you're healthy, you take your health seriously. But I'm sure if you wouldn't have, and you would have continued, it's an accumulation of that lifestyle that leads to, the chronic issues with, cholesterol, blood pressure, diabetes. So many people are diabetic, and people you look at, oh, he's skinny, and they'll be diabetic.
It blows my mind. Yeah, man. It's not, and the amount of sugar that we put in our foods, it's crazy. All right, we have a presidential election coming up.
Yes.
Without talking to politics.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, I heard something about it. If you look at the candidates, who's the best candidate for the kinds of science that you're working on over the next couple of years?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. I think the one that I've had personal interactions with because of just all that he's done for the healthcare space. I mean, basically took, big pharma on single-handedly, was Robert Kennedy, right?
Right.
With what he did, the lawsuit he won against Monsanto, which by the way, Monsanto was bought out by Bayer. And Monsanto is a company that creates Roundup, and their
Right.
primary ingredient is glyphosate, which I touched on it briefly earlier, which is one of the biggest toxins that we're finding in, I would say, over 80% of the patients that we test for heavy metals and toxins have elevated glyphosate. That serves as an endocrine disruptor. That serves as, creates cognitive
Yeah.
function. And again, that's why these things will manifest, So I think that on that, on that basis, I think he's done a ton. He understands also, the dangers about the vaccine front. It's not about being anti-vaxxer, but it's about the amount of, artificial things, put in. I mean, there's ingredients like heavy metals, aluminum, that, that's put in there. When you and I were growing up, we had, I think it was maybe in the high single digits or low double digits in terms of vaccines. Our parents less. You know what the number's up to now? I think it's like 72.
It's like 72, and if you add the COVID, it's like almost 80.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm like, why do you need that many vaccines?
So when the body's getting bombarded, and remember, in immune health, there's two components to our immune system. There's the innate, right, which is what we're born with, and then the adaptive, the one that learns over time. These vaccines are only generating B cell responses, which are the immediate, but they're not addressing the T cells. The T cells are the ones that have the longer term memory. The only way to get that is by really facing the virus hands on, and a time component. So we're never going to be able to just eradicate all of that.
All these stem cell clinics are popping up outside of the US. Man, how do I make sense of it? Where do I go? How do I know which one's a good one and which one's
and like I said, all stem cells are not created equal. And since so few people could quantify and qualify A, what a stem cell is, and B, how do I know what I'm really getting? Again, like you said earlier, we really have to be able to educate and get the message. Unfortunately, because it's become so lucrative, it's attracted a lot of unsavory players that just say, hey, we have stem cells. They come in with a big budget and they market. I'm leading not with my marketing. I'm leading with my science. And while I'm behind other places, I'm the only technology that is in multiple clinical trials with the FDA. So we've licensed that. We have a clinic in Cancun, and we're building one in Cabo to kind of have the East Coast, West Coast. And so of all these clinics, the only one that is in with a licensed U.S. technology that's working with the FDA, that's in multiple clinical trials, is us. Why is that important? Because I'm working with the FDA, and these are the good things about the system in terms of they're there to really protect the people and set up a system that is meant to check safety first. So before you could worry about efficacy, in fact, that's the whole clinical trial system. Phase 1 of a drug is safety. Phase 2 is efficacy, and phase 3 is dosage. Sorry. So then I'm trying to get. So we've already have our stem cell lines. We have 3 master cell lines that we've run through all the viral testing. We've tested the lines to make sure that there's nothing from CMV, which is cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr. These are collectively, these 2 viruses are in about 80% of the population. So we discount donors that have that. So then, with that being said, we have that. We've done those tests. We've done all the genetic testing to make sure that there's no genetic aberrations on the stem cell line. We give you a report once you get your treatment there, knowing exactly the amount of cells you got, the viability of the cells that you got. Also, we tell you, showing you that you really got stem cells. Stem cells have particular markers, and we test them. We show that it's positive for that, right? And then a lot of people don't even know that. So they're just getting stem cells infused, and then you have an issue like what happened in Tijuana, where a very prominent figure had a stem cell treatment and then passed away.
Wow. Let me ask you, I'm a healthy guy, try to stay in shape. I go down there for stem cell. What should I expect? Like I go, what should I expect? What's the treatment like? And then, how long does it take to sort of kick in?
Well, I think the first thing you should expect is great service. And that starts here in the U.S. So our concierge team, you'll speak with them. You'll have a virtual consultation with a doctor. All these doctors, there's also a misnomer just because you're outside the U.S. that the medicine is. Let me tell you,
That's not
the
true at all.
facilities
Yeah.
that we have down there,
Yeah.
I would rival them to here. And in fact, the hospital that we work with over there is significantly better than any hospital that I've worked with here.
Really?
The level of service and care, you know why? They don't have to meet patient standards. They're not trying to hit revenue metrics.
Yeah.
They're trying to provide how medicine should be, the best level of care
Right.
for the patient. Having said that, so you'll speak with a doctor. It'll be a virtual consultation. He'll understand what you're going down there for. A lot of people are going down there for autoimmune conditions,
Yeah.
a variety of stuff that they can't get done here. Why? Because again, in the US, we cannot treat people systemically with stem cells because that's considered a drug. So we license the technology, and people with, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, a lot of conditions. And listen, we make this very clear. We're not claiming to cure anybody, but for people that have no other options, quality of life
Yeah.
is being affected. Man, we're changing that.
Right.
If you're at a 0 and I take you to a 1,
Yeah. Right.
that's a big change.
Right.
So we're doing that, we're doing that down there. And so as we're educating people, they will see the difference between the other places that are just coming out, and I have MMA fighters, or I have this celebrity, or I have that. The conversation, the second we get to, please tell me a little bit more about where the source of your stem cells are. What testing have you done? And that's what worries me, is because, these patients are just, I'm getting, they just think all stem cells are the same, and you continue to have adverse events or people having issues. It gives a black eye to the industry.
Sure.
And then that's what then the FDA are looking, you see?
Yeah. The one guy. Yeah.
That's why we can't approve this.
Right.
And then as opposed to don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
And we're really pushing that hard. And I think now when we open up our Cabo clinic, we're having a big opening, and we're going to bring down the likes of, Gary, Dr. Axe, a lot of these industry experts, bring them all together to really project the voice in all of their platforms to get that across. And stem cells is one, but there's a lot of different types of cell therapy. I spoke about natural killer cells earlier. Natural killer cells are like the Navy SEALs of the white blood cells. If they would have been in Pennsylvania, probably would have done a better job.
Yeah.
But, they're really meant, they're the first guys in the scene. We're the only company in the US that's able to treat you with natural killer cells. How does it work? So I take 16 tubes of blood from you, send it to our lab in California. We strip the senescence from these cells, and then we make them young again. Why? Because cells that are young, like in the armed forces, want to fight.
Yeah.
And then we infuse them back into you. We did a 10-patient study. We have a publication on this. We were able to set back the anti-aging, 2 of the primary anti-aging markers on all 10 patients. That is significant because we feel that now we've stumbled upon an anti-aging benefit on this as well.
Wow.
And there's different criteria on anti-aging, right? And it's not just one thing that's aging. There's hallmarks of aging. Telomeres are one. Telomeres are like the end caps of your shoelaces. But as we get older, they start to shrink, and you only get X amount of divisions on your telomeres in a lifespan. So if you're critically low, it doesn't mean you're going to die tomorrow, but your lifespan is going to be shortened. So and you can increase the level of your telomeres by lifestyle changes, things that mitigate immune issues. So we do that. And then recently, we've added now a cancer treatment as well, using another type of technology called dendritic cells. So we were manufacturing a dendritic cell vaccine for this company called Immunosine, which it's a technology out of Baylor that is using your own dendritic cells. Dendritic cells is kind of like the alarm system of your immune system, and they're really meant to alert of cells that are, or intruders that are trying to come in primarily. But cancer does a really good job at hiding and confusing your immune system so that it could invade. So what we do is that we take the DNA makeup of the tumor, right? So we do a biopsy, right? We will capture that DNA makeup. We will then extract your dendritic cells using a procedure called apheresis, where we connect you to a machine. Then we will feed, or we will train the dendritic cells to go after this DNA makeup of the cancer. And then we will inject it around the tumor and around the lymph nodes. I mean, it's pretty impressive. In fact, the first patient that I sent down there, actually Gary, funny enough, Gary called me. This guy, Brock, who's become a friend now, 39 years old, stage 4 metastatic melanoma. Had tried everything, go home and die. Hospice. So, he spoke to Gary because Gary was seeing him at the time. He called us, anything you can do. I go, man, you don't make it easy.
Yeah, right.
So I called our PhD down there, immediately got on the phone, and we said, hey, we'll get you in to, treat you, because, we need a little bit of runway to be able to let the treatment do its course, because it's a series of 3 injections. I could show you the initial scan. After his first treatment, he had 15 tumors, the biggest being in his lung. After his first treatment, you'll see that the significant shrinkage of the tumor.
No shit.
And today, Brock is cancer-free and celebrated his 41st birthday.
Wow.
Yeah. So that really is.
And he had done everything else, the chemo, and
nothing. And again, this is his own treatment. We reprogram cells in his body
to fight it.
To fight it. So what does that tell you? We have a lot of the parts there already. We just gotta, coach them.
Well, what do you think this industry and the technology was going? What does it look like in 5 years, 10 years?
I think we're going to see kind of the crossroads of, the modern medicine, where you're gonna see a lot more personalized medicine using patients, from gene therapy to personalized cell therapy and immunotherapy.
Really?
And I think that is where we're going to continue to see the biggest advancements. That's what I see a lot of money going into across the way, where it's going to be less of just trying to grab as much off the shelf stuff and then personalized. We're seeing a lot of advancements on stuff for Alzheimer's, and which is great, because these are chronic conditions that by the time they manifest symptoms, it's already too late.
It's already too late, right?
You don't get an alarm saying, hey, by the way, in 10 years, you're going to have this.
Yeah.
But diagnostics is also improving. And that's a big thing that I wanted to discuss, because the tools to identify problems in us are getting significantly better, from blood testing to imaging. For instance, I'm partnering now with a company called Prenuvo, which is they do full body MRI scans. So hopefully I'll have, by the beginning of next year, I'll have one at our place here in Coral Gables. Currently their nearest location is in Boca. It's gotten popular because obviously Kim Kardashian came out that she had done it, Eva Mendes, and it's you sit regular MRI, you sit down for about an hour, or lay down actually, and they take full body image, and then in a few days the radiologist will get the report, and you'll have, the app's amazing. You'll get a full diagnostic of what's going on. Scary how accurate and how good
really
it is. And this is one of the things that I spoke about on the podcast with Gary, is like, they found in my case, and I could speak about it because now I'm on the other side of it. They found a lesion on my prostate, very small, about a half a millimeter, and immediately I was like,
freaking out.
Here we go. But 2 things. So freaking out, which is the initial human response, but then, damn, this is what I'm in this business for.
Right? Yeah. Get it early.
Let's go to war.
Yeah.
So I made so then I went to the urologist, made fortunately I had to wait several weeks.
Yeah, of course.
Made an appointment, did a prostate-specific MRI, did my blood work, checked my PSA, compared it to my historical PSA. Symptomatically, I was fine. And sure enough, it came back that it ruled out, cancer. So it was scar tissue. But that scan, tipped me off into, hey, this could be something, could become something. So I'm not going to get caught off guard.
Right.
Even if down the line something happens, I'm not going to be caught off guard. And then, checked everything else. And we've been able to see people, we've caught cancer, contained in a stage 1 on people. We found aneurysms. The level of things that we're starting to find and catch it early and then help mitigate are lifesavers. On some of these, by the time you would have found them,
you're up Schitt's Creek, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your conversations are way different.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are like, I don't want to know. Well, that's I think that's not a good approach, because hey, you have family, you have friends that
it's a terrible approach.
that count on you and love you and want you to be around. So I think combining these diagnostics, I think now colonoscopies, I mean, there's a new company that does called Cologuard that, you could potentially, if you don't have a history of colorectal cancer, you could start with a Cologuard, test that, and if you're negative, you could bump out.
Yeah.
But there's just more and more diagnostics that are coming out. I'm sure you're hearing about the blood cancer test that's testing for 50 different types of cancers in the blood. All amazing stuff because you're just starting your baseline earlier.
Yeah, to get ahead of it. All right, before you go, I can't let you go without some rapid fire questions, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Hold on, let me pull them up. All right. We'll just have some fun. Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone?
Schwarzenegger.
How many sprays of cologne do you put on every day? What's the proper amount of sprays?
Well, it's funny because one of the girls in the elevator go, "You smell good." So I guess I did something right today.
It's a big controversy here in our office. That's why.
Today was two sprays.
Today's 2. What's the proper amount?
The proper amount? Man, I would say 1.
All right. We got a guy here in the office. He says 24. But anyways, all right. Who's going to have a better season? The Miami Hurricanes or the Miami Dolphins?
Dolphins.
Dolphins, okay. I think so too. Drake or Kendrick Lamar?
Ooh.
It's a battle.
Drake.
All right. And last one question. You're a health guy. Is it okay to skip leg day?
Is it? Absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. All right, my man. Where can people find out about you?
So you could go visit us at, we have a couple web pages. So genteramed.com. Our Mexico clinics are rehealth.com. And then our exosome products are juvexo.com. And our Instagram handles are all the same.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Danny.
Awesome, bro. Thanks.